So part of this plastic bag project, turning these disposable bags into plastic bags, really had a lot of spin-offs and thinking about how we could apply this to other parts of the world and other countries and other situations. And through a series of conversations with Linda Kalbach and Carla Cooper, it occurred to us that if we really wanted to make a difference on the planet, one of the things that we make from this is something like mosquito netting. And I have a sample of that right here, and this is a pretty amazing thing to do if it works and if we can to get people to use it. Today we're going to be making mosquito netting from these bags, and we'll end up making this base material and then making mosquito netting out of that. And more than 1 million people die every year from malaria, so this is probably one of the more amazing things you can make with this. And it's our hope that this information gets out and spread around the world to the people that need it. There's some things I want to go over with you before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of making the mosquito netting. And the first is that the hole diameter, the hole for this netting, and here's some netting, we'll zoom in here in a minute and get you a good shot of that, needs to be 2 millimeters or less. If you get above 2 millimeters, then some of the small mosquitoes and the mosquitoes that may be in your area may be this size will be able to get through. If you have larger mosquitoes, then you can probably go a little bit larger. To get heat to our cutting tool, what I've been using is just a butane torch. You could use a campfire as long as the handle is insulated to some degree so you aren't going to end up burning your hand. And there's a lot of different ways to design handles that allow you to grab a hold of them even with this blade super hot. But this is what I've been using, and we'll get a little, there we go. All right, and then it takes a while to get this initially heated up, and this isn't rocket science, you just need to get in there and heat that up. We will come up and make our first set of cuts. I originally thought that I wouldn't be able to do this by hand and that I would need a ruler to make my cuts, and it turns out the ruler literally doubles this plastic space in your cut, and what we want is more hole and less plastic. So it's better to do it freehand. It's harder to do it freehand, and it takes some time and practice to get used to it. The handle gets really hot, by the way. So we'll make our first cut. That's a pretty nice cut. It got a little, oh, that's way too wide. So now I have a really wide cut in between here, and so I'm going to make that smaller in between. And again, these are just freehand cuts. And you'll find a side of the wheel that's easier for you to look at and follow. So now I'm getting really close together on this second one. Probably not a great idea to take another cut through there, but we're going to try it. There we go. It got really close. In fact, I went right back into the second set of holes. So I'm going to turn this around so I can keep cutting the side I want to cut on. And from where I'm sitting, my eyes can see this side much more clearly. And so I'm going to make my cuts going this direction. I'm going to make a cut and cut and cut and get wider that way. So I can see how close I am on my spacing. And that's really the key point. If you made the cuts on the wheel, the metal cuts in the wheel enough in the right spots, look at that. So this one slid. And one of the things this plastic does when it gets hot enough is that it gets really, 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 really greasy. And it'll slide. And so I had a slide there and I had a slide here. If it slides instead of rolls, you will end up making just one huge cut instead of little tiny holes. And so now it's sliding. I'm just going to go ahead and slide this so you can see that slide happen. And so now we have essentially the world's largest mosquito hole. Going from here all the way to here is one single cut. This is what I was talking about in terms of having this spin freely. As this heats up, it binds into itself and it makes it really hard to get a good cut on. All right, so I've just removed my nails or my thumbtacks, and what you'll find is this will be adhered to the board underneath it. So you just need to give it a little bit of a peel and it will come right off. And I'm going to slide a piece of white plastic underneath there so we can kind of get a look at our holes. Here's a big hole. This is where we had a slide. I think there were a couple other slides in there, and we're going to patch this. I'm going to show you how to make a patch in here real quick. You can kind of see a little bit easier where we have some pretty big areas. I could probably start about here and run to here and run another set of holes in, maybe right down through the middle of there, maybe another one there. So once you get this going, you may find that you want to go back and make some additional sets of holes in different places just to kind of open this up some more. It's up to you, and once you get to making entire sheets of this, you may not think that that's really worth the time and effort to come back into it, and that's kind of something you have to play by ear. But let's go ahead and make a patch, and we'll patch up our big hole right there. Okay, we're gonna patch our cut right here. So here's our little cut. And I've just cut another piece of that plastic, and this is 8-ply. You don't have to use 8-ply, you can use single ply. And we can set it right over the top of that. Now the smaller I make this patch, the more holes I'll have. So let me grab my scissors and we'll trim up our patch a little bit. And then we'll line that up right where we want it. And then we'll take our wax paper and put it right over the top of that. Now you got to be careful when you do this, because now you've got the wax paper on the bottom, your mosquito netting, plus your patch on top, and then a wax paper on top. And if you don't hold it all in place, you'll end up ironing the patch to a place that you have nice holes, and you'll have to redo it. And essentially all we're going to do is heat that spot back up. And this is welding, and we're going to weld that patch right into place. You don't need to do anything with sewing, which is nice, because sewing through this is a real pain, as you can probably imagine. And that is all I have to do there. Then we're going to peel off our paper. So there we have. We've now patched our hole. We have a nice, about 3-inch by 4-inch piece of mosquito netting. So what I want to show you now is how to secure this piece of mosquito netting to another piece of mosquito netting and continue making a bigger and bigger net. All right, so what I have then is our cardboard back, our plastic, our wax paper. I'm going to lay these two down here next to each other. And some of the times you'll find, and I'll show you some stuff that we're going to do here in a second, but it'll be a little easier to see here, that you want to put the heat directly on this, but not on the adjacent parts. So you use a ruler or some other small scrap of wood. We'll put our wax paper down. And you wouldn't need to do this to make this particular seam, but I just want to show you one of the cool ways you can control exactly where you want your heat. Now you might find that this is something that you will need on several occasions. So I'm going to give this about half an inch overlap, somewhere in there. You don't have to be real critical. Put our second sheet of wax paper over the top of this. And now I'm raised up off the table, so the heat's only going to be applied right along the weld that I want to make. And we will grab our iron and start welding. No welder hat needed. And then what you might want to do to make sure this weld is really taken is flip this over and hit the back side of the weld. And now we have our weld, our mosquito netting is welded together. No sewing, no needles, no thread, no nothing. And you're all set. All right, here's what the mosquito netting looks like when it's backlit. One of the problems that you'll have when you make this, or one of the oddities, it's very flat. And so it reflects a lot of light. And when you look at it with front lighting, it looks like there's not very much in the way of holes, and it doesn't look like it's going to allow a lot of air to pass through. And what you see here is a ton of air, a ton of holes. We are currently working on getting these holes to a good solid 3 holes for every unit of plastic. This is somewhere between 2 and 3 holes per every unit of plastic, and as soon as we get that done, we will put that video up too. But right now this is enough to really get the information out and start saving lives. So I'm Brad Elder at Doane College, and that's how you make mosquito netting. You can find out more information on our website. Just go to Doane College and look up my personal webpage. What you can do with this is almost endless. So send me your ideas, show me what you're doing, and pass the word.